There's some agendas here.
Looks like they're already recording to the cloud, so we're good to go, Seth. And CTV hit the button.
Great. Good evening, everybody. This is the February 20th meeting of the Nantucket Conservation Commission. We're meeting in a hybrid fashion with some people on Zoom and others physically present at the Town of Nantucket's meeting trailer. The first thing we'll be doing today is establishing a roll call of members. So members, when you hear your name, please respond in the affirmative. Tim Brain,
Here.
Mike Miserelli,
Here.
Joe Plandowski,
Here.
John Schaefer,
Here.
and Seth Engelberg is here. That is a quorum of 5. We'll be moving on. We need an acceptance of the agenda. Actually, before we do that, we need to announce the continuances for tonight, which are the following. Under public hearing, notice of intent, we have 3 Star Farm LLC at 76 Eel Point Road, SC 48 3884, continued till March 6th. We have Nantucket Islands Land Bank, Smooth Hummocks Way, SC 48 3893, continued to March 6th. We have McCausland at 10 Smooth Hummocks Way, also continued to March 6th. We have Sconset Beach Preservation Fund at 59 through 83 Baxter Road, SC 48 3759, continued through until March 6th. We have the Summer House of Nantucket Realty Trust at 10 and 16 Ocean Avenue, SC 48 3824, continued till March 6th. We have Segalini Properties LLC at 8 Bassett Road, SC 48 3851, continued to March 6th. We have West Ashore LLC, 62 Wanoma Way, SC 48 3869, continued till March 6th. And we have 15 Eat Fire Spring Road LLC, 15 Eat Fire Spring, continued till March 6th. And under amended orders of conditions, we have 36 Tennessee LLC at 36 Tennessee Avenue, SC 48 3807, continued till March 6th. I believe that's all the continuances for tonight, unless, Will, you have any others?
Double checking. You got all 8, I believe, right?
Yes. Let it be known for the record as well that Commissioners Turcott and Williams have joined at 5:03 p.m. Commissioner Turcott, can you respond in the affirmative if you're here?
Aye, here.
And Commissioner Williams?
Here.
Great. All 7 of us are here. At this point, we need a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Linda, and we'll take Joe for the second. We do need to do a roll call vote. Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously. We'll now be moving on to public comment. As a reminder, this is for items not on the agenda tonight, and we won't be having any substantive testimony, just simply taking comments. We'll be using the select board's policy for public comment. So at this time, if you have any public comments for items not on the agenda, if you're on Zoom, please raise your hand digitally. And if you're physically present in the room, let Will know and we'll recognize you. I don't see any on Zoom. Is there any in the room?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll be moving on to public hearing. We'll be starting with Sconset Beach Preservation Fund at 41 through 119 Baxter Road, SC 48 3736. As a reminder, the purpose of tonight's discussion of this agenda item is solely for the basis of scheduling a special town meeting. Or not town meeting, a special conservation commission meeting. I don't have the ability or the authority to do town meetings. Special conservation commission meeting. And we have received a few potential dates from town staff, the Natural Resources Department staff. Commissioners, have you had a chance to review those dates?
I have, I sent back my response, Mr. Chairman, to the staff. I can do any of the Wednesdays in March that they have on the list.
Thank you. Will, did you or Jeff get any consensus from emails sent back? I know I also sent an email in, or are we going to talk about it live at this point?
I think we gotta go live. I only got 3 replies, so if there were more, they only went to Jeff or something like that. So
Okay.
but the replies that I had, it seemed like that Wednesday date that you had looked like common so far, but we need the rest.
Yes, Joe, do you have a question or comment?
Yes, Will, was I one of the 3? I submitted the response about an hour ago, and I'm available for any of the dates that are on that email.
Yeah, I hadn't seen yours from an hour ago, but thank you, Joe.
If I may, Will, what Wednesday were you talking about?
Tim, we're just going to go through the dates, I think, because
Oh,
not everyone
okay.
has responded.
Gotcha.
So at this point, I'm going to read the dates that are potentially available. And we are going to endeavor to book the earliest reasonable date out of respect for the applicant. So the dates that are on the potential list include Wednesday, March 12th, Thursday, March 13th, Wednesday, March 19th, Wednesday, March 22nd, Thursday, March 27th, Wednesday, April 2nd, Wednesday, April 9th, Thursday, April 10th, Wednesday, April 16th, Wednesday, April 23rd, Wednesday, April 30th, and Thursday, May 1st. I know out of those dates, I couldn't do all of them. So what we're going to try to do is go through and find the earliest date. So we're going to start with Wednesday, the 13th of March.
Well,
Uh, yes, Lynn, did you have a question or comment?
Wednesday's the 12th, but I can rarely do Thursdays, but I can certainly do Wednesday, the 12th. That's the first date I think we have.
Sounds good. I'm reading what the table. Oh yeah, Wednesday the 12th. You're right.
I'm not committing to anything in April because I don't know what my schedule in April is going to be.
Okay. So commissioners, Attorney Nyland, I see your hand raised as well. But commissioners, the intent of this meeting, I believe, would be again to be a daytime meeting. We've been doing 10 a.m. to noon recently. Hopefully that still works for people. If not, we can find an alternate time. So commissioners, we're going to start with Wednesday, March 12th. If you cannot do that date, please raise your hand or tell me verbally. Okay, all the commissioners sitting can do that. Mr. Nyland, I'll recognize you at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Vince and I have been speaking and we are agreeing to continue, and that's tonight is for the date. And I was wondering whether or not meeting on 4 o'clock on Wednesday, the 6th would also be an option. As I don't think we would need, I think we're really down to one issue and I don't think we would need a full 2 hours. So is that a possibility to meet at 4 o'clock on the 6th?
That's before our regular meeting.
Before the regular meeting, yeah.
Okay.
It is a possibility for me. I'm not necessarily opposed to it. So I'll defer to other commissioners. Would you be inclined to have an earlier meeting start time to be responsible to that request, or would you prefer to go to the 12th?
I'm okay with meeting at 4.
4 is
can't-
fine.
I can't do it.
Okay.
I think we might be down, sorry to interrupt, Seth, but I think we might be down Jeff and Vince for March 6th.
I'm available for the 6th. If Jeff isn't, that's a different story.
All right. Well, unfortunately, Mr. Nyland, Commissioner Brain is not available, so I think the earliest reasonable date we can get you is March 12th. Are you available on March 12th?
Yes, we can, we'll,
Would 10
yes,
o'clock,
we'll do March 12th then.
would 10 o'clock be a suitable time?
Yeah, if that works for the commission, then we'll make it work for us. Yes, thank you.
Commissioners, this
Please.
is your, yeah, thank you, Vince and Meredith. Commissioners, this is your last chance to dissent. If you have an issue with that date, please say so now, or else we will continue to then.
Good.
Okay. So this hearing will continue to March 12th. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. We'll now be moving on in our agenda. Under notice of intent, no waiver required. So as a reminder, oh, sorry, this is no waiver required for post January 1st submissions, since the one pre-January 1st submission that we had was continued. So as a reminder to our updated procedures, we are going to go through each one of these applications and call them out by number and address and file number. And if you'd like to open a discussion for a substantive hearing, please let me know. That is an open offer to commissioners, applicants, and any members of the public. If there's no desire to open an application, then we will be voting on the ones that aren't opened as a block. And if you have any questions at any time, please raise your hand. So the applications before us today are number 1, South Slip LLC at 29A Old North Wharf, SE 48 3892. We have number 2, Wolf. Yes. Linda, did you say something?
No,
Okay. Somebody who has their hand raised, the town?
Yeah, sorry that I didn't realize I was gonna turn my mic on. That's fun. That was the first time I've done that. I always just raise my actual hand. I just wanted to give a super quick reminder, Seth, that we can't close anything with an asterisk. I know you know that, but I just wanted to chime in real quick, just in case we're gonna batch close those.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
So we're not gonna batch close anything today. It seems like, at least under that section. So anyways, if you'd like to talk about number 2, Wolfram Family Trust at 7 Folger Lane, SC 48 3894. Or number 4, McCausland, 10 Smooth Hummocks Way. Oh no, that one's continued. Or number 5, I should say, Town of Nantucket at 2 Ames Ave and Diana's Beach, SC 48. Doesn't have a file number yet. So if you want to talk about 1, 2, or 5, now is your chance. Commissioners, any interest in talking about any of those? Yes, Commissioner Turcott, which one would you like to talk about?
Number 5.
Number 5. Okay, any other commissioners?
no.
All right. Any representatives wanting to talk on any of their projects? Okay, and any members of the public wanting to talk on any of those projects? Seeing not, here's what we're going to do. We are going to accept a motion to close the hearing for South Slip LLC at 29A Old North Wharf, SE 48 3892. Would somebody like to make that motion?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
We'll take Joe and we'll take Linda for the second. And then we are going to continue Wolfram Family Trust at 7 Folger Lane, SC 483894 to March 6th. And then we will open Town of Nantucket to Ames Avenue and Dionis Beach for discussion at this point. That is represented by Morgan Nelson. Morgan, please introduce yourself for the record and go over your project for us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my name is Morgan Nelson. I am the Coastal Resources Technician for the Natural Resource Department. What we are looking at here is essentially a pilot project for 2 new technologies that have been developed in the last 2 years. If Will wants to pull up the map, I know he brought it up.
Somebody flipped my screens and I'm not happy about it. Everything's the opposite of what it's supposed to be now.
Oh,
All right.
it's just how it goes.
Ooh. There we go.
Hey. So
You can go right ahead, Morgan.
perfect. So this project will be located on the essentially the bluff face or the cliff, I guess, as well as the beach itself. It will not be on 2 Ames Ave property, as I've gotten some questions about, but it will be located at Nantucket and at Dionis Beach. Essentially, we are looking to do a 1,600 square foot total parcel on each plot of land. If you scroll up right there, yep. So that is essentially the graphic that we came up with to kind of depict our project. On the left, you'll see, well, the entire thing, you'll see 4 different sections. One with cliff stabilizers and plants. So the plantings will be just dune plugs that we are getting and that we've used before that are native to Nantucket. The second will be a dune guard. So that's just a device with no plant plugs. The third is just the plant plugs with no device. And the fourth is just the control so that we can measure the differences between the accumulation or loss of sand. They are both the same distance in length and width, so 27 feet by 60 feet. And then each parcel is approximately 15 feet in length itself. Will, if you want to scroll down to the cliff stabilizers. I think it's under that. Should be, yeah. There we go. So this is essentially what the first parcel will look like, or the first section, I should say. It is made of marine grade HDPE material with UV protection, so it will not degrade in the sunlight. And what this essentially does is it takes that steel twisty tie, I'm going to call it, and it turns into the ground. And it acts as a stabilizer for plant plugs, and it allows them to root themselves into the ground during a growing season, so that, you know, the next time a giant wave comes along, it doesn't rip out all of our progress made. That's the goal of it, at least. There will be about 6 to 10 plugs in each dune guard with several more in between the spacers. We would be needing approximately, let's see, 3,210 dune guards for the entire project. Nope, those are cliff stabilizers. That's what we want. And then if we scroll down to the dune guards themselves, one more, 2 more. Thank you. So this is the device that will be located on that second parcel. This essentially is very similar to the cliff stabilizer. It just necessarily acts as a giant plant. This will, you know, the top portion will be sticking out of the ground. It is also made of the same material, so UV protected, it won't degrade either. And this will essentially act as a stabilizer to any accumulated alien transport of sand. So it allows that sand to kind of gridlock together in a way that simple nourishment just doesn't allow it to. And hopefully that way the sand will stick without getting ripped out or washed away too quickly. And essentially, this project, we don't know how well it's going to work. That's the point of this whole pilot project. There's not a lot of these going in a big area, but the goal is to see on what side of the island each works or doesn't work, and then maybe go off of that based on our data.
Thank you,
And
Morgan. Thank you. RJ, I know you wanted this to be discussed. Do you have any questions or comments that you would like to start off with?
Yeah, thank you, Seth, and thank you, Morgan, for the presentation. I love the idea of this, and I think we kind of really need to start looking at some alternatives to the erosion control projects we're doing, which are destroying neighboring properties and costing us hours of time in these meetings. But not to get all Seth Engelborg about it, but I do want to make sure that we do permit this properly. And we haven't had a good debate about water dependent use in maybe a few months. And I don't know that this qualifies as water dependent use because I mean, there are dune fields that you could use these on that extend well away from water and have been flooded in decades. And so this one happens to be in a location that is within wave action, but I just don't know that it qualifies as water dependent use. It's not a structure, but it is artificial and it could wind up scattered all over the beach after a storm, even if it is doing its job. So I just wanted to open this and get you guys' thoughts because I haven't seen us permit one of these before. And I'm sure there's a way to do it. Like I said, I'm supportive of it. I just don't know that it's a water dependent use the way our bylaw defines it necessarily. Thank you.
Thank you, RJ. Other commissioners? Yes, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I would consider it to be a little bit of a pilot project. If we go forward with more of these, we probably would find some ways to identify, the structure. I shouldn't use the word structure, but the stabilization pieces. In this case, not so worried about water dependent use or identifying those things because I think we could find where they're coming from. Now that's right. Yeah, that doesn't mean it's not a water dependent use, but I guess we got to get a little more at the definition of water dependent use is where I'm at.
Thank you. Tim?
Yeah, I just a question. Are these is the dune guard intended to collect sand from both blowing sand and sand from the water, the wave action? Is that how it works? Just a question.
Sure, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
So yes, the dune guard itself is to accumulate both aeolian as well as any sediment that washed up on the waves. However, because it's a dune guard, typically these would not be placed in such wave prone areas. The two locations that we chose this time are just two different sides of the island, two different energy types that we want to test these out and just see how it works and see what our success rate might be. But the goal would be to have the aeolian transport be that accumulation factor for the dune guard itself.
Thank you, Morgan. For the sake of everyone's benefit who are here and who are not scientists, can you define aeolian transport for us?
Fair enough, thank you. So essentially that just means any accumulated sediment that washes over the dune based on wind. So the sand washing up and down the dune or anything that brings the sand on top of a dune type of grass and not accumulate. So that's aeolian transport through the air.
Thank you. Other commissioners?
I have one more question, Seth.
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Through you to Morgan on the dune guard, are those meant to, like the past couple of days, you could have covered those in 30 minutes with the way the wind was blowing. Do you add more of those or do those twist back up to?
So that's actually for both. Both of them are meant to design to twist up as the sand accumulates. So they're both removable, but they're both also, they will do their same purpose as long as we're there. And I'm the one on the beach all the time, so I'll be the one twisting them up.
I have a quick comment to a question, one of RJ's questions too, if I may, Seth.
Sure.
And this is a Will opinion, obviously, but in my mind, these dune guards, right? Like, I would not be comfortable saying that they are a water dependent use wholesale, because exactly what RJ is saying about the dune field possibility. The way that I saw it in my head is that it's a case by case basis. And I felt like I could make a pretty strong argument for water dependent use in this specific project. But I think if you're moving beyond that, a little farther from the water, something like a coastal dune field, then I felt differently, but obviously just Will's opinion, but wanted to share that thought.
Okay, thank you. Just for a little bit of clarity on the water dependent use topic. So our regulation definition for water dependent uses says projects which require direct water access for their intended use and therefore cannot be located out of the area subject to protection under the bylaw. And then it goes on to list examples that are included and some that are not included. Obviously, something like this isn't on either list, but that's the decision we're making. Does it require direct water access, or could it be in a different location to serve the same purpose? I saw Joe's hand, and then
Yes.
we'll go to Linda after.
Yeah, we need to keep looking for new technology. The thing I like about this is it's pretty well controlled in terms of what they're going to try to determine. But one of the things that bothered me about it when I first saw the slide is the stainless steel screw that basically goes into the sand. In the second photo, that device is 44 inches long, which gives me a more comfortable feeling that it's not going to be floating around on the beach. And I don't recall whether or not the length on the first one was presented. I didn't see it. But I think we need to try new technology.
Thank you. Linda?
I'm fascinated by this, frankly. And I love new technology that might get us somewhere on the erosion issue. I don't think it's a water dependent use. Seth, where do we go from there then?
Well, we would proceed with permitting under the performance standards for non-water independent use, and if they can't meet that, then we would proceed with waivering, just like we do any other project.
Would this be something that we would, this type of emerging technology be something that we would have to revisit our regulations to try to come up with a specific category for this type of thing?
It's highly possible. I was going to ask my scientific questions first, but since we're in this section, I'm not convinced that this is a water dependent use, and I'm also not convinced that it's not a structure. If you look at the materials, we're using 100% man-made, non-biodegradable materials that are being anchored into a fixed location on a bank to provide support. That's what our definition of structure says in the bylaw or in the regulations. We might not like that definition. We might end up changing it later. That's what the definition says. And if then if we've gone through this many times here, but then if you find something a structure, then the next step is to see is it a coastal engineering structure, and that's a structure constructed so as to prevent or alleviate storm damage, modify tidal action, wave action, littoral flow, or erosion. I mean, we have things in here like artificial seaweed, which is essentially the same exact thing as the dune guard, but in the littoral zone. So I think this one is even probably more likely to be considered a structure than some of the other things we've looked at recently. I absolutely think this project should proceed. And I agree with everybody that it is important to use these new technologies and that technology is always going to outpace laws and regulations, and that we're going to have to update our regulations to make sense of coastal engineering structures. Because even with the update we just did, it doesn't make any sense. But we do need to operate under the regulations that we currently have, and we do need to find we do need to make findings based on those regulations and waivers, if they are necessary, need to be applied for and granted. So leave that at that. My two scientific questions or comments to Morgan are, so I like the idea of having the 4 treatments, but and I understand for ease of access why they're all right next to each other, but I'm wondering if having all the treatments border each other, is that going to impact what's actually happening, especially along the edges? Like right now, your control, which is supposed to be nothing, is being planted on one edge, or your just planting is being dune guarded on one edge. So I'm wondering if you would consider actually putting spaces between the treatments. That's my one question. And then also, maybe I'm overthinking this, but it's in the same order at both places with just one trial, basically. And I'm wondering, I don't know if you have the space or time or money or whatever to do this, but I'm wondering if it's not just what's happening with the specific technology, but what's happening, as I said before, with the areas next to it. If you could do like 4 trials with all of the treatments happening at different spacing along those trials. Maybe that's aspirational, and I know it's a pilot project, as Mike said. Here's my opinion, though. Every single project in a coastal environment is a pilot project. We learn something new every single time we try it. Even if it's with the same technology in the same place, it's still a pilot project. I understand that this is meant to be a small scale test of the technology, and that's fine, but I want to make sure that what you're inferring from the data isn't based on what's happening in the treatment locations next to where the treatments are happening.
Absolutely. You are scratching my science brain right now. It's specifically due to the spacings. I would not be opposed to being able to put them further apart. I do think we have a little bit of a difference in our data as a result of that. I'm also, if we don't do that, I'm also hoping that, if we do see the dune guards getting much more sediment in some areas than others, we can look at the cliff stabilizers and say, oh, okay, well, dune guards worked a little better than these. In terms of the amount of them, it was an issue based on time and money. Right now, just because bird season is coming up, as you guys know, my favorite season, we have to get everything done by the 1st, and because we're already continued to the 6th, we can't order the dune plugs, or the grass plugs, the dune guards, or the cliff stabilizers until we have approval of this. So we're already looking to batch everything as soon as we get that approval and as soon as we get all of the items in. But we have to stop everything April 1st. And that's just due to NHESP. So just based on time constraints and money, that's why it was a bit scaled down. But I would be more than happy to look into kind of putting a gap in between each of these. We do have some more space to be able to do it.
Like you've got the space now that you could like alter it to put alleys in between or something.
Yeah. Yes, we have the space to put alleys in between each of these. It wouldn't be too big because you guys are right. This is a small scale pilot project that we're trying to see what does work on different sides of our island. But we do have the ability to put some spaces in there.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any additional comments? Yes, Tim, go ahead.
I would assume we should have some kind of determination if they're destroyed by a storm or messed up by a storm or half pulled out, some procedure for repairing them or taking them out. We should probably have something like that.
Yes. I also have like similar concerns to Joe as, are they actually going to be structurally sound or not? Or is one big storm going to come and they're going to all get blown up and we're going to have a ton of plastic in the ocean? So I think we need to have pretty good monitoring conditions here as well. I see Will, but other commissioners first. Okay, Will, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, from my perspective, this will be the most faith that I will ever have in a project that the monitoring will be completed and on time. So, because it'll be Morgan. and
I
she's-
sit next to him.
She's there anyway on the beach almost every day, so we would obviously be writing a pretty long findings page for this, but I would have a lot of confidence in monitoring, like regular monitoring being very possible. Like, I think we would have to condition this with more regular monitoring. Like, it's not gonna be quarterly, it's gonna be, if there's wind, we need to go look, and we can't, so.
Yep. All right, commissioners, any final comments before we move to the public?
Seth, I had one, just final.
Yes, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you. Morgan, how long do we expect this to run? Like,
We want to basically run it for a growing season of the plants themselves and reevaluate after that based on storms, based on winds, and based on just how well it worked or not.
okay, thank you.
Okay. At this point, any members of the public wishing to weigh in, please raise your hand either on Zoom or in person, and we will recognize you. I see none on Zoom. Any live?
We got one in the room, Seth.
Okay.
Actually come right up to the
please-
table.
Please identify yourself for the record with your name and connection to the project, if any, and then say your question or comment.
Hi, yeah, my name's Hugh Lloyd Thomas. We live at 4 Huckleberry Lane, which is basically fronts right onto that particular area. If there's any way to be able to expand that, we'd be really great. And I just want to say, if you need any hand doing the monitoring, we're about 100 yards away, so let me know. I think it's a great project and it should be done.
Thank you, and I'm sure you can get the business cards of both Will and Morgan pretty easily.
We take help.
Anybody else? Okay, so we don't have what we need to close, so we need to continue at this point. Morgan, would you like to continue to March the 6th?
I would.
Thank you. This will continue to March 6th.
Thank you, Morgan.
We'll now be moving on to notice of intent waiver required pre-January 1st submissions. And just as a reminder of how we're doing this part of the hearing at this point, with our new procedures, we are hearing each one of these individually. You'll note on the agenda, there's pre-January 1st submissions, and then there's post-January 1st submissions, but the first one we're taking is pre-January 1st. So for commissioners, applicants, and the public, just remember we are applying the regulations that were in effect up until January 1st of this year. With that being said, we will begin with 14 Tautima Way Realty Trust at 14 Tautima Way, SC 483840, represented by Katie Barnacle.
Great. Thank you. Good evening. Katie Barnacle with Ilex Environmental, representing 14 Tautima Way Realty Trust. And we were before you before way back in 2024. And you asked for information about groundwater and moving structures outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. The project includes the construction of a pool, patio, a shed, a water closet, a pergola, and we reflagged a small area of wetland and adjusted the setbacks and also added the groundwater information. And we also added the test pit for the groundwater information. And we adjusted the grading a little bit, less than a foot, to make sure that we had that 2-foot separation. So all the proposed work is outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. We identified where the pool mechanical units will be, and those will be outside of the 100-foot buffer zone and meet zoning setbacks. So that's been added to the plan. And at this point, everything's outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. The waiver request was for just maintaining existing structures that were previously approved, just like the deck and things like that, but no work is being proposed on those. So if that makes any sense. So I think we have everything that's been asked for to date, and we request an order of conditions for this project.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to members of the public. I recognize Sarah Alger. Please introduce yourself for the record with your connection to the project, and then you can go ahead with your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sarah Alger. I represent the owners of the property directly to the east at 12 Tatimo. I guess I didn't see where the groundwater was on the plan. If it's on there, I'll take your word for it. What I didn't see, though, was anything that identified the depth of the pool or showed how whether the footings of the structures, the shed in particular, would be meeting the 2-foot separation, and that the bottom of the pool would also be meeting that 2-foot separation. And I just wanted to confirm that the work that's shown as relocated path, which is off of the locus, is not included in this notice of intent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Barnacle, do you have answers to those questions?
Yeah, there's the test pit information, which is right by the septic system, which is just to the south of where the proposed pool is. That's the location of the information. When the septic system was redone in 2021, and we've adjusted for that. And before, we've mentioned that this is a shallow pool. It's going to be about 4 feet deep, and we provided that in previous. I believe that was mentioned in the notice of intent, but it is a shallow pool. It's not a deep pool. So everything meets all the requirements. And then the shed is even further to the south in a higher location. So that's even a greater distance above the groundwater. And there is no relocation of the path, because that could trigger a MISA filing. It could trigger, it's on the parcel that's between the two properties. And we have decided to remove that from this filing. So that's no longer included on this filing. And we're going to be working with the abutters to make sure that any rights are reestablished for the access, and then a separate filing would be done for that, because we'd probably have to clear some vegetation. And again, there may be a MISA filing because we're in a priority habitat, not estimated habitat, but priority habitat. So there's some complications there, and it's not part of this filing anymore.
Thank you. Do you have design drawings or schematics for the pool or the shed?
I don't believe that's included on this plan, no.
Would you be willing to supply those to the commission? These are standard requests that we usually seek when we have structural elements.
I'd be happy to provide that information if that could be conditioned, because every time we come back, new information is being requested. And this is the second time we've continued for additional information. If we can condition that, I'd be more than happy to get that to the commission.
Thank you. It is certainly within our purview and discretion to
Understood.
to either request that you continue to provide that, or we can condition or add a condition to the order of conditions that says prior to construction, these items must be submitted. So the commission can do either, and we'll defer to commissioners to decide what they want to do.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
I
understand.
Yes, Miss Alger, I see your hand raised again.
I just wanted to say, first of all, I didn't mean for this to come off as new information. I think this is the same issue that I raised at the original hearing that wasn't addressed in what was subsequently filed by the applicant. It's been such a long time since that first hearing, I don't remember. The other thing is, I see the location of the test pit, but I don't see where the information is about the groundwater, number one. And number two, are you comfortable relying upon data that isn't current? I mean, we already have this compiled plan done by a variety of surveyors. It's just, this project just hasn't been done the way that I would have expected that it probably should have been, just to provide all of the information. It's kind of standard information that the commission requires all the time. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Katie, can you indicate the specific test pit elevation and what the bottom of the pool elevation are for us?
I thought that information was added as a note to the plan, and I printed the plan out on 8.5 by 11, so I'm just pulling the plan up now so I can actually read the text.
And real quick, guys, too, I just want to let you know we've got in person as well for the applicant.
Thank you.
Elevation 12.4.
Yeah, I don't see the note, but I mean, I see the elevations, but I don't see the note.
Yeah, on the pool itself, through you, Seth. There's an elevation labeled there. I'll highlight it, but I didn't see the note.
Because I know we took some time from the Blackwell plan, the datum was different, and it's only 3 years old, the information. So I think that's pretty recent. Sanitary. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't see it.
So respectfully, I think we might be asking you to continue to provide those schematics and to provide some specific clarity on those elevations.
Okay.
But we do have to hear other comments from the public or any commissioners that may have arised. I see Mary Walrow with the public comment in the attendees list. Will, please bring them over.
Good to go.
Please introduce yourself for the record with your name and connection to the project, and then make your question or comment.
And you are muted, Mary Warrow. I don't know if we've got a raised hand by mistake or something, but
You mentioned that we had some public comments physically in the room. We're going to go to them and then come back to Mary. So who in the room would like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's Rick Bodett for the applicant.
Okay, yep, please go ahead.
So I just wanted to point out that the information you have on the water levels is really just 3 years from the date of our filing, which has been, I understand, continued a few times, and I don't think there was a request previously for schematics. I believe, Sarah, we're specifically asking for the groundwater levels, which is what we've tried to provide here. And I think, any request to update those is really just meant to delay our process here. And I mean, obviously, if the majority of the commission is interested in seeing all that, then of course, provide whatever you guys want. But I would be shocked if the groundwater levels have changed that much in the last 3 years. In fact, when Will and I were there, you could walk across having fun, but I know that's changed.
That was a special circumstance, I believe.
Sorry, I don't mean to suggest that the water levels have gone down. The groundwater levels. Anyway, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, we appreciate it. And as I mentioned before, we do have the option to receive this information or to condition that we take receipt of this information after the hearing is closed prior to construction. if commissioners would prefer to do it that way.
Great, thank you.
All right, is Mary still wishing to speak?
Hand is down now, but
Okay. Commissioners, thoughts on how you would like to proceed? Do you want to continue for the additional information? Do you want to close and seek that information as a condition? Or do you have any other questions or comments that you'd like to raise at this time?
Mr.
Linda?
Chairman,
Yeah, Linda, you can go first.
Uh, I understand her wanting to close and then submit the information, but I think the information needs to come in the public venue.
Thank you, Linda. Other commissioners?
I don't know if you can see me, Seth, it's Mike.
Yes,
yeah,
Mike, go
sorry,
ahead.
I was not to go against Linda or what anybody else, I was fine closing with the condition that we could, conditioning to see the material. I don't think it's gonna change a lot of our decisions, so that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Joe.
I go with closing and conditions.
Okay. Other commissioners? Tim, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. With closing and conditioning it.
Okay.
I am too.
And thank you, John. I believe I forgot to mention this, but Commissioner Turcott, I think, is recused from this hearing.
Correct.
And so I see, Linda, do you still have your hand raised?
No, I'll go along with the majority. I just think it was sort of a close call on it, but I'll go along with the majority.
Okay. Sarah Alger, I'll recognize you again.
Thank you. I just wanted to say quickly that I don't think you have any information on groundwater elevation at this point. So please be sure if you're going to condition it that you actually do ultimately get that information. And this isn't an intent to just delay this process as was suggested. I just want to make sure that they're held to the same standard that other applicants are. And I think providing depth to groundwater and the depth of the structures and their distance from groundwater is standard information that every applicant provides. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
I got a hand up and Rick Bodett too, but I just wanted to respond to one of Linda's concerns too.
Yes, Will, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the way that I would craft this condition, because I'm in agreement with Linda, like anytime we're gonna take any document submission like this, I would write the condition that it needs to come in as a minor mod or an amendment or something like that, so that we're taking the info at a public hearing and we're going through the process in the best way possible. That was really all I had to say. I just wanted to make sure if that can quell any concerns, that would be the intention.
Thank you. It's my personal opinion that the best practice is always to have a complete plan and a complete package prior to closing any hearings, especially if there are multiple ongoing issues or concerns. But if the commission feels like they have enough, we are a majority here and we will defer to the majority. And if we end up doing that, you know, the applicant has to meet the standards. If they end up realizing that they can't build the pool with the groundwater elevation and the pool elevation, they're required to come back to the commission for an amendment or a minor mod to satisfy that. Same with the shed or anything else. So I think it is my opinion that we always should have complete plans and packages, but even without that, it doesn't somehow release applicants from their regulatory duties.
And Rick
Mr. Bodett, would you like to make a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not to prolong this, but just 2 points. I think he kind of took the words right out of my mouth, but also I did want to take the unusual step of agreeing with Sarah that providing the groundwater is certainly a standard procedure here for a pool. And of course, I think we have provided it, and if there's anything missing, we certainly should provide it. And again, if we can't meet that, then we would have to come back and ask for a waiver or change our plans. That's all.
Thank you. So commissioners, ultimately, it's now up to us to decide, do we still wish to close, or has anyone changed their mind? All right, I think we wish to close. Will, do we have all the required information to close?
Oh,
We do. Adequate.
Okay.
Yes.
Katie, would you like to close?
Yes, please.
Is there a motion to close? Thank you, Joe. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tim, for the second. By roll call vote, Tim Brain,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams.
abstain.
Okay, and Seth Ingeborg, aye. That carries with 5 commissioners in the affirmative, Commissioner Turcott recused, and Commissioner Williams abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
We'll now be moving on in our agenda, and we'll be going to Lydia Denny Palmer LLC at 110 Wawinut Road, SC 483868. I know we
Mr. Chair.
have some recusals.
Yeah.
It's
I'm recused
Mike.
also.
Mike and Linda. Is there anyone else? Okay. So Commissioners Miserelli and Williams are recused. This project is being represented by Brian Madden. Brian, good evening. You're welcome to introduce the project.
Thank you very much. For the record, Brian Madden from LEC Environmental Consultants representing the applicant, property owner. To reiterate, the proposed project involves an extension of an existing board fence along the northerly property boundary by 36 linear feet. 25 feet occur between the 50 and 25-foot buffer zones. We've requested a waiver for that. Back when we initially presented this project at the January 9th meeting, there was a request for some additional fence information and a detail, which we provided on revised plans. I'd be happy to share that if staff's unable to, if you'd like me to, Mr. Chairman.
Coming up, Brian.
Okay.
Thank you, Will.
Little delay there.
Oh, no problem. I just saw you step away, so.
A classic Will delay, that's all.
So fence details involve it's a 6-foot tall fence, cedar type material, stockade paneling. But we are providing 4 to 6 inches of ground clearance to allow for small wildlife passage underneath it. And again, this is purposely terminated at the 25-foot buffer zone to maintain wildlife migration through the property. And also, as stated at that original meeting, there's 300 feet of coastal dune that extends from the toe of the coastal bank out to the harbor or to the beach fronting on the harbor. In addition to the coastal bank and the buffer zone to allow for that wildlife migration through the property. We had also continued to file with HGC. That has gone through that process and received consent on Tuesday. During the on-site, we had observed some non-native kind of ornamental plantings that were installed within the 25-foot buffer zone. So the proposed plan has been updated to include a revegetation of that area, basically replacing what was installed, which was skip cherry laurel with native groundsel tree and arrowwood. And we have requested a waiver for the long-term net benefit associated with those plantings that will expand species diversity over pre-existing conditions in that area. Again, the fence has been purposely designed to avoid any adverse effects on the coastal bank and its associated interests. The buffer zone per se does not have wildlife habitat as a protected interest associated with it. The buffer zone serves as a function of protecting the resource area itself from providing those habitat qualities and interests. So the question really boils down to is whether the work will or will not substantially reduce or impair the coastal bank's ability to provide interests and functions and values like wildlife habitat, which we've again designed the project to avoid and minimize those impacts. So as proposed, the project we feel will not result in a long-term adverse effect on wildlife habitat or any coastal bank interests. And with that, I will turn it over to questions.
Thank you, Brian. Just as a general matter, at least under the Nantucket wetlands regulations, the land within 100 feet of a coastal bank, otherwise known as the buffer zone, carries the same protected interest and performance standards as that area. So I hear what you're saying about scientifically buffer zones seek to minimize intrusion and preserve the functionality of resource areas, but regulatorily we make the same findings for those buffer zones as we do for the area itself. So at this point, I'll go on to commissioners for questions or comments. Yes, RJ.
Thank you, Chair. So I'd be supportive of an alternative, some sort of vegetation or something. I understand after the site visit that the reason that this fencing is to be installed is more for an issue that's unpermitted on the other property, and we wouldn't normally permit this where it's going within the 50 and have it in the past. So I'd much rather see an alternative try to be worked out here, and B, have the issue for the need for a physical barrier to be addressed on the other property, but that can't be addressed within this particular conversation. I just thought it was worth mentioning, but I'd much rather see some sort of alternative planting or something there. Thank you.
Thank you, RJ. Other commissioners? Okay, I'll speak then. So I agree with what RJ is saying, in that Mr. Madden really talked, in this hearing at least, I know in other hearings there's been additional discussion, but he really talked today about wildlife habitat. But that's not the only protected interest here. If you look at our regulations for coastal banks performance standards, you look at number 3, it says all projects shall be restricted to activity as determined by the commission to have no adverse effect on bank height, bank stability, wildlife habitat, vegetation, wetland scenic views, or the use of the bank as a sediment source. I think this certainly has the potential to cause impacts to wildlife habitat, even with the modifications that are proposed. I think this definitely has an impact on wetland scenic view. And I think also, putting a fence in the middle of essentially a vertical interruption in a horizontal bank with a fence, has the ability to impact bank stability and the use of that bank as a sediment source, especially if this area continues to erode and erodes up to that fence in the future, and it's causing issues with scour or some effect of that structure. And I think if you look down to number 5, performance standard number 5, that's calling out that all structures which are not water dependent shall be at least 50 feet from the coastal bank. I think that, in my opinion, this project certainly cannot be done in accordance with the performance standards, hence the waiver request. And I think that if you think about the 2 waivers that we commonly apply, the first is long-term net benefit. I would say that's not applicable here. This is a long-term net negative. And the other is no adverse impact, no reasonable alternative. I think the applicant hasn't proven that there's no adverse impact. And I think there's certainly many reasonable alternatives. Commissioner Turcotte mentioned one with planting, but there are several other opportunities for creating a project that leads to physical or visual screening of an area without having a structure in place. That's how I see this project, but I'll let other commissioners speak at this time. Yes, Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you and RJ on this. It seems like there's another way to skin this cat. So I'd be inclined to say no.
Okay. Anyone else? John?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time, coming up with the impact of this fence. It's just an extension of what's already there, right?
Sorry, John, but you're echoing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's 2 Johns in the panelists.
Let me turn this now. Is that better?
Yes.
So you're putting a fence post in the ground or a plant. Is there a difference between that?
Are you asking me or are you asking Mr. Madden?
That's what I'm trying to come to terms with.
Okay. Mr. Madden, would you like to share your thoughts on that?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so to John's question, comment, and to your comments, relative to like adverse effect on bank stability, between the top of the coastal bank and the terminus of the fence, again, it's 25 feet away from the top of the fence. As shown on the plan and as we saw during the onsite, or most of the commission saw during the onsite, it's a flat area between that 25-foot stretch. Post the fences itself and the post would be just simply dug by hand via post hole digger. The intent is to minimize the vegetation disturbance on the property to the greatest extent, and therefore, this is all going to be done by hand. There's no heavy machinery and anything like that. So I think we can avoid any adverse effect on bank stability. And as it relates to wetland scenic view concerns, that it was something that I'm sure HGC took into consideration. I think the only areas where this is visible from the public is from the coastal beach along the harbor. And, this is made from a natural material, cedar. It's going to weather and basically blend in with the vegetation, in addition to the fact that we are providing some screening of what we can on the subject parcel with the plantings of the groundsel tree and the arrowwood within the 25-foot buffer zone. So I think the visibility from the coastal beach is going to be de minimis, and possibly, if anything, if there's any exposure through the neighbor's property where there is no vegetation in the 25-foot buffer zone, but that's something that we can't control, and we're attempting to screen it as well as we can. And getting to the point about reasonable alternatives. The applicant feels that, alternatives related to split rail fencing or even dense vegetative screening is not going to serve the same purpose as what the board fence would. And I know that's somewhat interpretive or discretionary, but that is their position.
Thank you. And I will recognize that in the letter or the updated plan that was sent, they made that clear. So we do ask for written alternatives analysis. They did provide it. It's up to us to determine if we think it's sufficient or not, but it was provided. Commissioners, any other questions or comments before we go to members of the public? RJ, go ahead.
Thank you, Seth. Just to follow up on John, your comment. So a fence post, I mean, this is right up on Wawanet. You're getting close to the haulover. I mean, we have storms like we had the other day. That fence is just gonna get blown back and forth until it works its way loose. It's gonna go down the beach. The part of it that's in the beach is gonna rot. The post is gonna rot in the ground. I mean, cedar is great. I love cedar, but if they do a planting here, it's going to add to the stability of that bank with native vegetation. And while it won't be as instantaneous as a physical fence, I think it'll hold up better to what the conditions are in that resource area. And it's something that we typically do and would be able to permit. And to Seth's point, an alternatives analysis with something like that hasn't been provided. And it's okay that the applicant isn't interested, but it's just we don't normally permit structures within here because there are alternatives that might actually be an improvement, is why I was taking the position I was. So thank you.
Thank you, RJ. And as always, the burden of proof is always on the applicant to meet the standard for reasonable alternatives or anything else really. And the decision, but the discretion of if they've met that standard or not is held by the commission. So we have the ability at any time to request additional information that would help with permitting this project. So at this point, we'll be moving on to members of the public. I see Natalie Kaufman's hand raised. Please introduce yourself for the record with your connection to the project, and then you're welcome to make your statement at that point.
Thank you. So Natalie Kaufman, I'm counsel for the homeowner and applicant. Thank you to the commissioners for their comments. I really just wanted to sort of emphasize what Mr. Madden said because the scientific analysis is his specialty. I think that, we have shown some ways that it wouldn't have a substantially detrimental impact. And I just did want to address the reasonable alternative. I think something that I had mentioned in the January meeting was that the applicant actually had tried dense vegetative screening in past. I can't speak to the species or the nature of the plantings, but there was repeated problems with the neighbor trimming that back repeatedly so that it failed to be able to serve that function. And I understand that's sort of out of your purview, but I just wanted to add that to the reasonable alternative analysis.
Thank you, Natalie. I hear that and I understand that, and it seems like there is a unfortunate neighborly situation going on at this parcel. However, we need to be careful that we're not making permitting the decisions on the basis of past history, but on the basis of what is going to happen in the future. So that's our standard here. I see John Walker with their hand raised. Please introduce yourself for the record with your name, your connection to the project, and then make your comment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
My name is John Walker. My wife and I own the home at 112 Walnut with our 4 children. I just want to say that we object to the application to extend the fence along the north property line. My property abuts the north property line. We likewise object to the requested waiver to extend the fence within the 50-foot buffer zone. Will, I don't know if you can share the picture of the fence when it was installed illegally a couple of years ago, but I'd like to just show the commission what it looked like and what's being proposed. Can you share that picture?
Thank you, Mr. Walker. We will not consent to the sharing of that picture because we have a detailed drawing in the applicant's NOI submission, which already shows the fence detail. So
Understood.
anything from the past is subjective at this point. We have a drawing of what it will be in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's just, it doesn't show the other side of the fence, which is what I was looking at. So it only shows the nice side of the fence, if you will. And I, you know, that's neither here nor there, but the application probably fails to provide a justification for the request. It likewise fails to address the adverse impacts on my family and as a budding homeowner. Simply put, there's no reason for the waiver that justifies its adverse impact on us. And contrary to the suggestion within the letter, the fence as extended will certainly alter the migratory patterns of those animals that frequently traverse both properties, namely deer and rabbits. Deer clearly will not fit underneath, you know, the 4 to 6 inches that's being proposed here. And I think it is worth mentioning when the fence was illegally installed 2 years ago, it did go through the ground, so there was no passage at that time. So I also feel that it's worth mentioning that the proposed fence, again, was illegally installed in May of 23 and was not removed until over a year later as my neighbor ignored the enforcement order from this body. I know I lived with the adverse impacts for a year, and I'd also like to remind the commission that the oversized flagpole I'm sure that you saw when you went out for the site visit was installed within 10 feet of the coastal bank without any permission from the body or notification to the abutters. And I'd like to formally ask that the flagpole be removed until proper permissioning occurs. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. A few general points. We obviously can't control what happens on your part of the property. You know, if you wish to plant additional plants to screen a fence that you don't like the aesthetic look of, that's within your rights and purview. And I think we need to be careful here about wildlife habitat, because although I do agree entirely that the fence as proposed has a potential to impact wildlife habitat, we need to we need to think about what types of wildlife it's impacting, right? Something like a deer is just gonna walk down the beach and go around. But not all animals do that. There are some animals that are very routine oriented, and that are going to go on the same path every single day, back and forth, their whole life. So we do need to make sure that we're not just saying, oh, all wildlife is being impacted by this fence, but we need to document why we think wildlife is being impacted. At this point, is there other public comments? Any commissioner responses before we go to Mr. Madden? Okay, Brian, go ahead.
Thank you. I think we'll be looking for a continuance, but if I could maybe get some feedback from the commission specifically. I mean, is there any scenario for there's some middle ground or compromise for some extension of the fence in the 50-foot, or is it basically any extension to the 50-foot? Commission members are opposed to it, regardless of any information we may submit.
My personal opinion is that something like a split rail fence with significant planting screening would be a healthy compromise and would meet the interests both of the regulations and apparently or assumingly what the applicant of this property is trying to do. You know, I understand that the split rail fence doesn't create the visual separation that a board fence does, but it creates the physical separation to make that lot line clear, and it's less likely to um, have issues with, I guess, neighborly trespass than just planting alone. Because I understand some of them are uh, negligence and some of them are mischievous, but when you just plant something and it's right on any property line, you don't always know when you're trimming, is it on my property or my neighbor's? That happens. But if you have a fence and all of the planting is on one side of the fence, that creates both the physical and the visual separation. A split rail fence, I mean. So I would like to see something like that. Other commissioners? RJ?
Just I agree. Thank you.
Tim?
Yeah, it seems like a good compromise to me, if it's acceptable to them.
Joe?
I agree. That's a good suggestion. Split rail fence. Good idea.
Brian, it sounds like that's what the commission is hoping for. So we will continue to seek public comment, but after that has concluded, then we will allow you to continue. Okay, I see Mr. Walker's hand again. Please don't be repetitive. If you have additional questions or comments that haven't been said tonight, you're welcome to make them at this point.
Of course, I would just like to say that I would be opposed to a split rail fence for many of the same reasons that I mentioned before.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walker. We do need to make sure that the reasons for opposition are related to wetland issues, not just general opposition. So if you could document the reasons why you think those would have an impact on the performance standards, we would appreciate it. You can do that now, or if you're not prepared to do that now, you can send a letter to the staff. Yes, would you like to answer that question?
Sure. If when the fence was put in the last time and when it was taken out, there was a ton of vegetation that was removed to enable them to install the fence. So when you suggest that they're not going to be disrupting the 50-foot bank, I don't think that that's valid because there was a ton of vegetation that was removed so that they could install it.
Thank you. Any other public comments at this point? Seeing not, Brian, would you like to continue till March 6th?
Yes, we would.
Okay, we will continue this to March 6th. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks for everyone's feedback. Appreciate it.
We'll be moving on to Powers at 36 Bassett Road, SC 483871, represented by Art Gasparo. Art, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm before you tonight with the second public hearing for this application for work within the buffer zone to border and vegetated wetlands. And we, several of commissioners and I, staff attended a site visit that had been requested following the first meeting to review the resource areas, the site conditions, and where the proposed improvements are going. You may recall that there are a couple of retaining walls which are proposed within the 50-foot buffer zone. Those are located on the opposite side of an existing traveled way from the wetland resource area. There's also modifications being made to the existing structure such that the net area of structural elements within the 50-foot buffer zone is actually decreasing. And finally, there was the question raised about other permits, and the HDC application hadn't been submitted at the previous hearing, and that since has been done by the architects. So I'm hopeful that we would be able to close this or address any remaining questions or concerns. And just now that this is on the screen, to quickly refresh your memory on this, on the east side, The two red lines there, the 25 and the 50, where a proposed patio is being installed with some retaining walls within that area. And again, the area on another portion of the plan, I did the calculations to lay out the existing area. You can see there's a portion of deck where the word remove is right near the 50-foot buffer zone that is greater than the area of the width of those two walls, which essentially is going to create a bit of a sunken patio area. You could see there's some topography. So they're really just trying to work with the site there. And again, given the conditions of the waiver is justified on the provision for being on the opposite side of a existing traveled way outside of the control of the applicant. With that, I'd be happy to take any outstanding questions or concerns.
Thank you, Art. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Seeing none. Members of the public, any questions or comments? Is there anyone physically present in the room, Will?
Not with questions or comments.
Okay. Do we have everything we need to close this application?
Yes, we do, sir. Now with Art's HDC approval, we're good to go.
Just for clarification, I'm sorry. The application was made. I don't know that they're.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
That-
my case.
That is fine. And just to clarify the specific standard, it says applied for or obtained. So
Yes.
you don't have to obtain it. You just have to apply.
Will misspoke.
So with that being said, Art, would you like to close?
Yes, please.
Is there a motion to close? Thank you,
So
Joe.
moved,
Is
Mr.
there-
Chair.
We'll do Joe and Linda for the second. By roll call vote, Tim Brain,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Ingleworth, aye. That carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I do have a question, and that is, how many continuations is there a limit on how many we allow, or does this just go on infinitum?
There is a one standard. There, I think if a application hasn't been opened after 2 years,
Yeah.
then it needs to be resubmitted. But if it's been opened and then continued for more information, we can continue it as many times as necessary in order to get the information as needed.
The reason I ask is number 2 on that list. I remember visiting that site in short sleeves.
Okay,
It was
Joe, sorry to cut you off, but please keep that comment to Commissioner's comment because we shouldn't be talking about it when that hearing's not open.
I will do so.
Okay. So we'll be moving on to notice of intent waiver required. This is for post January 1st submissions. We have one. It's Ned Site Management LLC, shoal dredging off of 34 Straight Wharf. And this is represented by somebody named Vardy.
No, actually, it's Carlos Pena, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
afternoon, or good evening.
Carlos. Please identify your connection to the project and then introduce the project.
Of course, thank you. My name is Carlos Pena. I'm from Fourth Infrastructure and Environment. I'm here on behalf of NED Site Management. The project was to perform emergency dredging to clear the channel of a shoal at the Highline Dock, located at 34th Straight Wharf within an unauthorized channel. We received a notice in early October that the Highline ferry had run aground and couldn't quite make it to the dock. We ran out on October 24th and performed a survey. At that point, we found the shoal on its port side that would have been about 4 or 5 feet above the existing channel grade. At that point, we approached the harbor master, Sheila Lucy, and obtained an emergency declaration to be able to dredge. We obtained a WPA Wetlands Protection Act emergency certification from Jeff Carlson on December 16th, and then proceeded to complete the dredging with AGM on January 6th. And then within 30 days of that occurrence, we filed a notice of intent, and after the fact notice of intent before the commission. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Carlos, and thank you for recounting the history of the emergency permit. Commissioners, any questions or comments at this point? Do we have any questions or comments from members of the public?
Seeing none.
We do not have everything we need to close because of the need to complete the legal advertising. So unfortunately, Mr. Pena, we need to continue. Would you like to continue to March 6th?
Yes, and also further, Mr. Chairman, we have not been issued a DEP file number. So as of today, the check was sitting there waiting to be cleared, and once it's cleared, they can issue that number.
Thank you. We will continue this application to March 6th.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you as well. We'll now be moving on to the public meeting orders of conditions. We don't have that many, but we'll send these out and can get them up on the screen. The first one that we'll be starting with is 78 and 72 Pocomo Road.
You want to take these together, Seth, since they're
It's the same
language?
project, and I believe they're very similar, if not same permit. So yeah, let's take them together.
And one more question, would you like me to read every condition? I don't mind if the answer is yes, but I'm checking first.
No, no. You can maybe give a general description. This is a long permit. I did look at it earlier. Does have quite a few conditions. You can maybe give a general description of how you arrived at these conditions. And then we can ask if commissioners have any additions, questions, or comments and go from there.
So I'd just like to say quick too, I think Seth saved us all a lot of time tonight because him and I went back and forth on this draft a couple times today. So thank you, Seth, for your time. We pretty much based this off of the Pocomo neighbors order that some of you may have been here for in 2016. We updated some of the language to reflect some things that we're doing a little differently today, which this is exactly what popped into my head when Seth said earlier that coastal engineering structures are all pilot projects, because if you look at our conditions on these permits, they have evolved quite a bit in a short span of time. But anyway, we have our classic general conditions, but then oh, hold on, this is the wrong one too. I'm sharing
Yeah,
the
I was
wrong.
going to say.
Yeah. Nice. Here's the right one. It opened up like a Tamagotchi size too. Here we go. I have to make sure it's on the big screen too for my two people here in the building, of course. So anyway. Where do we go? I don't know what happened here.
Yeah, you're supposed to
We
get
have
rid of
them
the
now,
waiver.
hold on. They may have been saved in the wrong location. If you want to move on to the next one, I do have them on this computer, so I just have to move them over. I don't know if that's something you'd be happy to do or not.
How long is it going to take?
Well, the computer won't turn on, so. Hang on, I wanna make like absolutely sure that we don't have these. Also, if we take a 4 to 5 minute recess because we're in the trailer, I can go get them for sure.
Let's take a recess till 6:40 p.m.
Oh, perfect, thank you. I worked on these for a good amount of time today and I would not like to continue again.
No,
So-
we continued this one last time anyways.
Yeah, we'll be right back. I'm gonna mute things.
And then she had to go into like no man's land.
I'm unmuted. Is it 6:40? Did I do it? Oh, no way. All right, that was the most full contact Concom moment I'm ever gonna have.
You're not even out of breath.
I saved the empty orders that I like cut and ordered everything up to make it more organized. Here's the real one. I'm gonna share it now. I looked at it before I shared it because I didn't want to do that again. Whew. Okay. So our additional findings. I think what's, so we had that it's a water dependent project. Basically our performance standards kind of quickly summarized for coastal banks, coastal beaches. These are more general, our more pertinent stuff here. All of our so here is kind of where it starts. So everything's grouped together. These are the plans that are needed. Our contact info for the participants in the project. We have a lot of surveying. So again, this is really kind of the same conditions that have been on other larger core array projects. Our condition on markings. Then we have all of our monitoring reports grouped together here. If less than 75% of plantings are living at the end of the growing season, applicant shall come before the commission for what remedy is needed. We have our, and actually this got redundant by mistake. I would like to take 13 out, but I think we have to say something about that with the commission. Because these are the same and 14 is better. 15 is our failure criteria for 33% of project materials, excluding nourishment sand required replacing within 2 years of installation. Failure to provide nourishment materials as outlined or delinquency of required monitoring reports. Should any of these failure criteria occur, the applicant shall file a new notice of intent to modify the existing project or permit its removal. Here is our big long nourishment condition. I'm not going to read it. The change we made here for the photographs that are required, we added the word geo-referenced. Super easy to do, and if anybody, I bet Art can handle that no problem. But there's apps and the phone, the cameras on our phones can do that now too. Just gives us more context where the photos are. Our condition about adverse impacts to surrounding properties. Biannual reports, and then our catch-all. That's why we put all the monitoring together. I think this is neater now. All monitoring reports are due by the anniversary of this order's issuance. And no waiver. And I believe that is it, but I do feel like I jumped all over the place because I had to run for 30 seconds, so please.
Yeah, just getting back to 13 and 14, they are actually different. 13 is related to the per year survivability, and 14 is related to the overall total survivability. So basically 13 is saying if that less than 75 of the plants come back to the commission for more planting, and 14 is saying if at the end of the project, or really that's not the end, because it could be more than 3 years.
Yeah, right.
The end of 3 years, then we need to see 75% of the plant community surviving, or it's a project failure.
I missed the operant 3 words there. Thank you, Seth.
So commissioners, thoughts, questions, comments, additions?
Seth, Mike speaking, Will, can you go back to the one about the 24-hour photograph thing? I didn't quite understand that one.
Oh yeah, so geo-reference photographs of the project area. So geo-reference just means like you can either put like coordinates. A lot of them will show like a coordinate, compass arrow, blah blah blah. But the actual condition is for photographs of the project area required quarterly. In addition, georeference photographs shall be required to be submitted demonstrating the condition of the entire project area. This comma is inappropriate. Demonstrating the condition of the entire project area within 24 hours of each storm event. And then I believe, I mean, we can define storm event in here again if you guys want to, but we have it defined elsewhere here. But we can copy and paste that super easy if that's something we want to do.
I think it's fine if it's in there once. RJ?
I guess my
Oh, yeah,
I'm
Mike,
sorry.
yeah, keep
Thank
going.
you, I haven't seen that one before, and I guess if the commission's fine with it, I am too, but it seems a little maybe burdensome to be within 24 hours of each storm event. That's just my comment, but
I think within 7 days is probably fine.
Within 7 days. And I will say too, quickly through you, Seth, I believe this condition, not to complicate anything, and I honestly think 7 days is more reasonable. But this condition was word for word what we put on Pocomo Neighbors, but we added the word georeference. I think 7 days or a few days or whatever, that's up to you guys, but I think that may be more reasonable, especially if the storm event is still happening.
Yeah, I mean,
7 days.
Multi-day storm event.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Yeah, but 7 days. Okay, RJ, go ahead.
Thank you, Seth. So, obviously I was clear in my opinion that this is a coastal engineering structure, so I'm not gonna beat that poor old dead horse here anymore, but I don't agree with saying this is a long-term net benefit because the main resource area we're talking about here is a bluff. And even though they're plantings and natural material, if there wasn't a human settling on top of the bluff would be allowed to do what it does in nature, which is move. And so I think you're altering the activity of that bluff and it's not to its long-term net benefit, even though those are natural materials. So it's fine if the commission feels that it's no reasonable alternative, but it's to be definitely not a long-term net benefit to the resource area. Thank you.
Thank you, RJ. I think we're gonna say none of those things because the majority of the commission feels that no waiver is required. So we're just gonna judge this on the basis of the performance standards. But just to double check, that type of finding isn't anywhere in, there's no finding about long-term net benefit in the findings, right? Right, Will?
Let me do a quick double, triple check, but I do not believe so.
And
some waiver options available, but those are all
yeah,
gone.
and RJ, I agree personally that it does meet the standard for coastal engineering structure, but the other commissioners majority disagreed, so the options before you are to either go with the collective decision of the commission or vote in the opposition to this project.
Thank you.
Oh, real quick, Seth,
Yes.
if I may, additional finding 12 says the commission finds that the project as conditioned by this order will not adversely impact the interest protected by the Town of Nantucket Wetlands Protection Act, blah, 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 blah. So it says no reasonable alternatives to this project as conditioned. So I believe we'd only need that if we were wavering.
Yeah, I think we can get rid of that. I don't think that.
I forgot to pull that.
I don't think we have to. I don't think we have to commit to that.
Yeah, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Other commissioners' thoughts, questions, comments, additions? All right. If not, are we ready to proceed with a motion to issue the 2 orders of conditions as amended?
I'm ready to go.
Would you
Go,
like to
Mike.
make that motion?
Yes,
Thank you,
So moved.
Mike. Is there a second? Thank you, Joe, for the second. By roll call vote, Tim Brain,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Mike Miserelli,
aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
No.
Seth Engelborg opposed, and Commissioner Williams is recused. That carries 4-2 in the affirmative.
I was not, this is 76. I wasn't recused from this one. I did the Mullen thing the last meeting.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were recused from either 72 or 78.
No, different ones. I was on, I did different ones. I thought those were the ones, and that's why I did the
Oh,
Mullen rule
okay.
last.
Sorry, then Commissioner Williams, what is your vote?
I'll vote with a majority, but I can see your point and I can see RJ's point.
Okay, that carries in the affirmative with 5 commissioners yes and 2 opposed. Thank you. All right.
Thank you guys for your patience too with running to grab that. We probably all appreciate one less thing next meeting.
Yep. So we'll move on to South Slip LLC, 29A Old North Wharf. Actually, I think we should have started with that, but sorry. We'll go back to it.
These the new agenda is a little funny. I do not blame you. So make sure I save those edits. We're going to grab the 3892. We have our DEP number obviously, but so the order permits the replacement of a damaged wave fence within land subject to coastal storm flowage, land under the ocean, and land containing shellfish. Waivers not required for the project as proposed. We had no NHESP. I put 18 and 19 on here. Does anybody have any additions for this permit?
Seeing none, is there a motion to issue as drafted?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Linda and Joe, for the second. By roll call vote, Tim Bray,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg, aye. That carries unanimously. And we'll move on to 14 Tatima Way Realty Trust, 14 Tatima Way, SC 483840.
I threw a condition on there during the hearing that you will not see on your drafts. But I'd like to make sure that it has been crafted how we want. So 14 Tatimo. Proposed pool installation, deck renovation, fence installation, shed, landscaping, buffer zone to a coastal bank, coastal beach, land under salt pond, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Waivers required, no NHESP, conditions 18 and 19. Which I will be making a new template, by the way. We're gonna not even list those anymore. It's gonna happen. So condition 20, our lighting condition, and then our slew of pool conditions here. Standard. And then this is what I added to try to capture our discussion at the during the hearing. Prior to start of construction, groundwater elevation data shall be submitted as a minor modification to this order. If the new data shows the proposed pool cannot meet the relevant performance standards, the pool will have to be altered, wavered, or removed from the plan through an amendment to this order. Yay, nay?
That's a good start. I think we're also asking for schematics for the pool and the shed.
Thank you.
And then while Will's working on that, Mr. Chairman, if I may, if I'm understanding this correctly, they're gonna come back with a minor mod, which still keeps it in the public forum.
Yes, although
correct?
minor modifications are heard under the public meeting section of the hearing, so it won't be open to public comment. So if we want to allow public comment in the future, we're going to have to do it in a different way. But if we want to allow public participation, then the minor mod is fine, but not for comment.
So yeah, and quick question or comment
Yes.
or something to consider for everybody too. I kind of had that thought as we're here right this second, but to be clear, and I might, maybe there's a possibility we write this a little clearer, but basically we get to see the data, right? So if it's a minor mod, and I mean, I think it'd be possible that we just require it as an amendment from the beginning. But my thought was that we require a minor mod to get the information. And if we put in this condition that based upon that minor modification, we then will require an amendment, then that would bump it up. But I don't know that that's necessary or something y'all are interested in doing. So very happy to change how this looks, but that was just kind of my thought process.
I'm fine with, as long as the information comes back to us in the meeting. I don't intend to, I'm not trying to exclude the public from anything, but as long as it comes back to us in the format of a meeting, that works for me.
Let's put prior to the start of construction, groundwater elevation data and appropriate schematics for the pool and shed shall be submitted to the commission for review.
Okay.
Upon review of said information, the commission will determine if a minor modification or amendment to this order is required and will ask the applicant to proceed in the fashion it sees fit. Something like that.
Proceed accordingly.
Proceed accordingly, yeah.
And again, through you, Seth, I think that makes complete sense. My only thought was if we require it to be a minor mod, then there's kind of more of a standard procedure for us to take in the info. I'm less comfortable not doing this in an official process way, even though, but submission to the, requiring submission to the commission is obviously fine process wise. That was just kind of my thought is all.
Either way is fine, as long as we indicate that the project can't proceed until we have reviewed it and have the updated information.
Okay, that's what we were worried about, is that we wouldn't get it before that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's complete, but I also don't necessarily agree with the opinion that no groundwater elevation data has been submitted. I mean, it's on the plan. It probably should have been clearer, but it is there.
Yeah.
So,
But updated.
And when we closed, we didn't tell them we were gonna make them come back with a minor mod. We just asked for the information.
well, we don't really have to disclose that in the open hearing. I mean, making them come back with a letter or making them come back with a minor mod is pretty much the same
Same thing.
same
I
thing.
think I said that. Sorry, I interrupted. That was My
Yeah,
bad.
go
I
ahead.
think I did say that during the meeting, just to at least put it out there. Because I don't like surprising people after they are no longer allowed to participate.
Okay. Yep. All right. Well, I think how it's written is fine then.
Okay. Just reading it over again. But I do, I'm with everybody on that, and I want to make sure that that's kind of, I think, if maybe my minor mod thing is a little bit overkill, it's just, that's how I like to roll. Be safe.
Okay. My other comments, we need to add the conditions for landscape planting that we've been using, including all native species, no cultivars, and no fertilizer or agricultural chemicals.
One moment, please. It's easy to overlook some of the simple, obvious ones when you're.
And did we do lighting on this too?
Yeah, lighting.
Yeah, let's put lighting on plantings, so. Oh, lighting is on it.
20.
I was gonna say, I had a feeling that was there. Landscape planting shall be native species with no cultivars allowed, no fertilizer or agricultural chemicals shall be applied within commission jurisdiction. We did have the lighting condition, and was there a fourth one? I think it was three, but.
Yep, that was it for me at least. Anyone else?
Good.
Commission needs to be capitalized and cannot needs to be one word, but other than that, good to go.
There we go. All right. Cannot. Capitalized commission.
Commissioners, are we satisfied?
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to issue the amended or issue the order of conditions as amended?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. By roll call vote, Tim Brain,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg, aye. That carries with 6 commissioners in the affirmative and Commissioner Turcott recused. Thank you all. We'll be moving on in the agenda. We have no RDAs today. We have no minor mods today. We have 2 certificates of compliance. We have 2 COCs for McCausland at Smooth Hummocks. The file numbers are SC 48-859 and SC 48-3514. We'll take them together and they're represented by Art Gasparo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of these orders is quite a bit older and had to do with construction of the house that's there. We've actually filed a new notice of intent to relocate that house. But it does appear that the work for constructing that house was in substantial compliance with the orders. And it actually included a condition that once the bank started to get close, there would be a new notice, which is what we've done for the relocation, which is what we've done. I don't know if that's quite met that threshold, but just to let you know. And the other order was for construction of beach stairs.
Thank you. Will, have you been out to the site and do you have a recommendation for us on these certificates?
I have, yep. Agree with everything Art said. I think this is probably, it might be the oldest order I've seen yet. The three-digit DEP number was cool.
Yeah, I saw a couple so far that had 2 digits. I haven't seen any with 1 digit yet, but
Okay, all right. Been here last time. That's, but everything was, both of these are completed absolutely to substantial compliance. My one question, which I was kind of figuring we don't have to continue this condition, but I just wanted to throw it out there. But what Art mentioned, there's an NOI being submitted to move the house. Does it make any sense to continue that condition, or do we worry about that when we issue a new NOI? Hearing the NOI to move the house, do we think about adding the condition back on then?
what's the
So-
condition that you're talking about?
So what Art was mentioning is the original permit was conditioned so that when the eroding bank got within a certain distance of the structure would have to be noticed to be moved. And it has not quite met that threshold yet, but I think they're being a little proactive, which is good.
We should technically continue that condition. I mean, I know the NOI has been submitted, but theoretically could be withdrawn, so we should technically continue it. But yes, all right, I'll recognize you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I mean, the house is going back hundreds of feet. Like, it's why you would have an ongoing condition. I think you're going to have an opportunity under the new. I mean, I'm not, it's not a big deal. It's maybe semantics, but to have an ongoing condition that it just doesn't, it's just going to be lost in a. I just don't see where it really. And you're going to have a new application on the relocation if you really wanted to. But I mean, it's going. Just so you know, it's up to you.
Yeah,
I don't see the point.
I understand and I agree totally that it's not probably a concern, but for the sake of good permitting, we should just continue it anyway.
So that was, I guess, my only comment.
Which
answers that question that.
Which
we
file
will-
number is that on and what number is the condition?
That is 847, and I might be asking Art to read the condition number if he can. And if
Yes.
not, I'm grabbing it, but you might have it up right now.
I don't, but I can find it.
Because I'm looking.
It's the 859 application. That's the one we're talking.
Yes, yeah.
Or commissioners, do you care?
No.
Does anyone
Well-
care except for me?
I think it is good practice, and I don't really know why it would be a problem.
It's not a problem. I don't think
Either
anyone
way.
thinks it's a problem. I think they just think we're being unnecessarily
Efficient.
by the book here.
I have it if you'd like.
Yeah,
Mr.
please,
Chairman.
please, Mr.
It's
Gaspar.
it's condition number 20, and I'll read it if you would like.
Yes.
Which is when the eroding coastal bank is approximately 30 feet from the seaward face of the new structure, the applicant or their successors shall file an NOI to plan for the relocation of the approved structure. So condition 20.
Thank you. Let's continue that ongoing condition 20
Thank you so much, Art, by the way.
on the 859 file number. Commissioners, any other thoughts, questions, or comments? Is there a motion to issue the 2 orders, SC 48, 859 with ongoing condition 20?
So moved, Mr.
and
Chairman.
SC 48, 35, 14 with no ongoing conditions.
Yep. That's my motion.
Thank you, Linda and Joe, for the second by roll call vote. Tim Brain,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Ward, aye. Those carry unanimously. We don't have any extension requests tonight. We'll move on to other business. We don't have any minutes to approve. We have a large amount of monitoring reports from the Land Bank and the Conservation Foundation related mostly to invasive species projects that they have going on. As always, if anybody wishes to discuss those, get in touch with Will and he'll put you in touch with the permit holder on that. We'll be moving on, unless anyone has any questions about monitoring reports, we'll be moving on to committee reports. We'll start with Crack.
Nothing new.
Thank you, Tim. CPC.
Nothing new.
Thank you, John. NP and EDC.
Nothing new. They're meeting in the other room simultaneously, so have missed that for this Concom meeting, but it's the way
Thank
it
you,
went.
Mike, and we appreciate you being here for us. Harbor Plan.
Working it.
All right, thank you, Linda. And we'll be moving on now to commissioners' comments.
Good meeting, Mr. Chairman, as usual.
Thank you, Joe.
Back to my question of continuation and how many continuations are there? We don't have to talk about it now. We could talk about it at the process meeting we'll have in a couple of months. But I'm curious as to how long this stuff can go.
Yeah, we'll talk about it now because it's not really a process issue. It's more of a DEP regulatory or legal issue. It technically could go on forever. I mean, if an applicant wishes to continue, they can keep continuing however long they want. If the commission doesn't have the required information it needs, it can ask the applicant to continue with their consent. Or if the applicant doesn't consent, we have the ability to continue applications without the applicant's consent. There have been some hearings in my 6 years on the commission that have continued for a long time, over a year or up to almost 2 years in some cases. We don't strive for that. I don't think applicants strive for that either. And in the one case that was really long, it ended up leading to a withdrawal. But we are sort of bound by the process of following the hearing and making sure we have all the required information and everything's been satisfied before we close. If we close prematurely, that's going to lead to issues for us. So as much as it can be frustrating, we do have to kind of deal with that scenario. Other commissioners' comments? Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Just to expand on that a little bit and not referring to any particular application, but continuations when there's enforcement issues, does the commission have any other power there?
Yes, if we decide to go down routes that aren't typically used. I mean, we have the ability to, most of our enforcement issues are done in the civil sphere, requiring the applicant to either pay fines, come back to the commission with updated plans for remediation or mitigation or removal. And we go through the process and deal with that process. But if it seems like applicants are purposely ignoring us, I mean, there is the criminal sphere of opportunities. I don't think the Nantucket Conservation Commission has ever gone down that route. I know other commissions off island have gone down that route. We try not to go down that route. I think without mentioning any specific project, sometimes projects continue in enforcement situations because behind the scenes, the violator and neighbors or other stakeholders or abutters might be trying to figure things out. That can be annoying for us, especially because we're not privy to those discussions, but I feel like that happens quite a bit. But the basic answer to your question is yes, we always have ways to compel people to appear before us or deal with the consequences.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. Other commissioners' comments? Okay, I see Paul Santos's hand, but we are not in a public meeting. Paul, if this is strictly a procedural question, I'll allow you to make it, but if not, you missed the opportunity for public comment at tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Seth. No, just to Joe's comment regarding continuations, if I could just briefly add something to that.
Sure, briefly.
Oh, and I just want to say, I mean, the commission's policy on the tracking with other boards now, the HDC and so forth, I think does, at least in a few that I have, tracking with HDC so I don't come before the board and then have to continue. So I think that aspect has changed a little bit too on some of these, at least for the ones that I have, of why we're continuing.
Yes, we are aware that is causing continuances, and at least I was aware prior to making that change that it would cause continuances. Maybe not everyone was, but I fully expected this to happen.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Okay. Enforcement actions. Will, do you have anything for us?
Nothing than the buns that are already in the ovens. So we have our NOI that's before us for Winoma. I know that they have some HTC stuff dealing with. And our other one out on Plover, we will have folks at our March 6th meeting. I've had confirmation. They've retained representation and all that. So I can at least confirm that the EO was received, and it definitely appears that the homeowner or the owner is very interested in remedying the situation. That's all my info for that so far, and nothing new yet.
Thank you. Do you have any staff reports?
Staff report. Thank you guys for this evening, and although it was not Will's fault and I was strictly told not to fall on any swords for it, I do want to apologize that the legal ads were not submitted in my absence. But thank you everybody for your patience with that stuff, and that's it. Thank you. Great meeting.
Thank you as well. We are at the end of the agenda, so we would need a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Joe beat you to it, but we'll allow you to make a second. By roll call vote, Tim Brain.
Aye.
Joe Plandowski.
Aye.
Mike Mizzarelli.
Aye.
John Schaefer.
Aye.
RJ Turcott.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Seth Higginborg, aye. That carries unanimously. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all and have a good night.
Good
Good
night, guys.
Good night.